She said I didn't have to come, that it was her mom's birthday, not mine. That's your family, she said, almost sweetly. I nodded. Got it. Not mine. So I spent that evening at the bar she hated, with her dad and little brother. We laughed. Took a photo. They posted it before I did. And when she saw it, there was nothing left for her to say. 3 years in, you think you know where you stand. Her dad sends you memes. Her brother texts you when he's grounded. You help her mom carry groceries. You think, I'm part of this. Not just dating her, I belong here. Until one night, she rewrites all of it with 4 soft words. You don't have to come. It wasn't the words. It was how casually she said them, like I was just a guest. Like it never mattered that I was always there. And I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just remembered every holiday, every favor, every sacrifice. And I started counting the ways I'd made myself small to fit. Until that night, when I stopped shrinking. It started in the kitchen, like most of our decisions did. She was standing by the fridge, scrolling. I asked what the plan was for her mom's birthday, logistics, timing, the usual stuff couples coordinate. She didn't look up when she answered. You don't have to come. It's not your family. She said it lightly, like it was generous, like I'd be relieved. And I did what I always do, nodded. Gave her an out. Got it, I said, with a casual tone that masked the sting. But something in me folded at that moment. Not broke, folded. Quietly. Like when you close a book mid-chapter because you already know how it ends. Because I knew I would have gone. Gladly. I'd done it every year. I was the guy who helped load the cars, picked up extra wine, calmed her cousin when her baby wouldn't stop crying. The guy who stood in every family photo, just slightly off to the side. And suddenly, none of that counted. That night, I checked the group chat her cousin made for party updates. I wasn't in it. Her best friend's boyfriend was. Her sister's on-again, off-again fling was. The guy who once brought weed to her aunt's baby shower was. Me? Absent. I stared at that list longer than I should have. Scrolled through it twice. Not invited. Not even mentioned. I didn't say anything to her about it. Not because I was okay, but because I wasn't ready to see how easily she'd confirm it. I think part of me hoped she'd notice. Realize that maybe it was just thoughtlessness. But deep down, I already knew. I spent the rest of the evening in silence, letting it settle in, replaying every moment I'd shown up, been there, contributed, recalculating the emotional math. Apparently, it all added up to, not your family. And that's when something shifted in me. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I wasn't welcome, so I'd stop acting like I was. A couple days later, I asked her about it. Not confrontational, just light. I said something like, so, is everyone bringing their partners, or? She shrugged. Some are. But it's not a big deal. You don't even really like that side of the family. She said it with a little smile, like she was doing me a favor. Like it was somehow considerate to exclude me. That was the first twist of the knife. Not the act itself, but the way she framed it like I'd wanted it this way. As if I'd ever said a word against her family. As if I hadn't been the one who drove her aunt to urgent care that one night, who helped her dad fix the kitchen drawer, who stayed behind to clean when everyone else ducked out. I didn't argue. I just let her talk. And she kept going. My mom doesn't really notice who's there, anyway, she said. She's always so stressed. Another soft justification. Another edit to the story that made my absence make sense. To her. To herself. But not to me. I realized something then. Something small but ugly. She wasn't forgetting me. She was removing me. Softly. Casually. Kindly, even. Like she was easing me out of a space I thought I'd earned. And worse. She expected me to thank her for it. That night, I replayed the conversation in my head. Tried to remember if I ever said I didn't like her family. I hadn't. Not once. In fact, I'd gone out of my way to like them. To fit. To earn a place that, apparently, I never really had. It wasn't a big fight. No yelling. No tears. Just quiet edits to our shared reality. She was building a version of me that never asked to be invited. A version of me that didn't care. A version that made her feel justified. And in doing so, she made one thing perfectly clear. She needed this to be my idea. That way, when I was gone, from the party, from the photo, maybe even from the relationship, she could say, he didn't want to be part of it. And maybe people would believe her. But I wouldn't. And neither would the part of me that finally started paying attention. A day or two before the party, I got a text from her dad. Nothing special, just a meme. One of those corny ones with a fishing joke and a beer can. No caption, No context. Just a line in the water. I replied with a thumbs up. Then, almost as an afterthought, he followed up. You not coming Saturday? For words. Not heavy. Not loaded. Just enough weight to let me know he noticed. I stared at it for a minute. Not, are you coming? Not, looking forward to seeing you. Just, you not coming? I typed, wasn't invited. Sent it. He replied with a thumbs up again. No follow-up. No apology. No attempt to fix anything. At first, it felt cold. Like he was confirming I was out. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized it was neutral. Not dismissive, just honest. That small exchange stayed with me all day. Not because it gave me comfort, but because it gave me clarity. He knew I wasn't being petty. He knew I hadn't just flaked. And he wasn't going to defend her. But he wasn't going to lie for her either. Sometimes, silence is a form of alignment. Not approval, but observation. He saw what was happening, and he chose not to pretend otherwise. It wasn't an allyship. It wasn't a rescue. But it wasn't rejection, either. It was space. And that space, that gap she had opened up between us, suddenly didn't feel as isolating as it had a few days ago. Because now it wasn't just me standing outside the circle. Someone else was watching from the edge too. That night, I slept better than I expected. Not because I felt okay, but because something inside me had shifted. The version of events she was trying to spin, the one where I didn't care, didn't try, didn't fit, was starting to unravel. And for once, I didn't feel the need to correct her. Let her have her curated truth. Let her explain away my absence. Let her write me out of the story. I wasn't going to fight for a seat at a table that had already been cleared. That weekend, I ended up scrolling through old photos. Not out of nostalgia, more like fact-checking my own memory, making sure I hadn't imagined it all. Her mom's birthday the year before. There I was, handing her a wrapped book I'd remembered she wanted from some offhand comment. 2 years ago, I was next to her cousin's husband, both of us in matching paper hats from a joke gift box. Year 1, me holding her niece, cake on my shirt, smiling like I belonged. 3 birthdays. 3 years. In every one, I was there. There was no distance back then. No awkward silence, or you don't have to come. I was part of it, quietly, maybe, but consistently. Helping, participating, remembered. Now, I wasn't even on the guest list. I zoomed in on one photo. Her mom had her arm around me. Her dad was mid-laugh. Everyone looked fine. Not performative. Not strained. So when exactly did I become optional? I tried to remember the last time she talked about her family without some version of, they're a lot. Or, you probably don't even like them. I realized it had been months. And slowly, like watching ink spread on a napkin, I saw the pattern. This wasn't new. It was gradual. Deliberate. Even if unspoken. Little edits, year by year. A joke about how I never speak up. A side comment that I'm not into family stuff. Subtle nudges, until the narrative held. I wasn't being excluded suddenly. I was being rewritten. Softly. With plausible deniability. The photos didn't lie. But they didn't matter anymore. Because those memories weren't part of her current story. The one where she was redefining herself. Cleaner, freer, less tied down. I was the excess. The leftover character from an earlier draft. And she was almost done editing me out. I closed the gallery. Not angry. Not even sad. Just aware. Sometimes, clarity doesn't hit you like a punch. It creeps in like a chill. And when it does, you stop asking why. You start thinking, what do I do with what I know now? There's this moment that keeps resurfacing. It was from our second year together. Her mom had come over for dinner. I'd made the reservation, picked the place, even wore the shirt she liked. The whole evening was smooth. Safe. No drama. The kind of dinner where no one says anything memorable, just polite smiles and shared desserts. But I remember one thing clearly. Her mom looked at me across the table and said, "He's very quiet, isn't he?" It wasn't hostile, just observational. Like I was a painting she couldn't quite categorize. And my then girlfriend, smiled and replied, "Yeah, he's not really family-oriented." It slid right past me at the time. I laughed it off, made a joke about being an only child or something equally deflective. But now, I can still hear her voice when she said it. How casual it was. How final. Not really family-oriented. Not shy. Not thoughtful. Not takes time to warm up. Just, not one of us. I don't think she meant it cruelly. That's the part that stings most. It was just her framing me, as she always did, through her own lens of convenience. She was building a narrative, one light comment at a time. One exclusion, one nudge, One you don't have to if you don't want to. And I let her. Because I believed love didn't need constant affirmation. That being present was enough. That showing up would eventually count for something. But that flashback? It reframed everything. I saw how many times I was described instead of introduced. How often I was summarized, with a shrug or a laugh, by someone who claimed to know me best. She never invited me in. She just tolerated my proximity. And I, like an idiot, thought I was family because I was in the photos. Turns out, being in the frame doesn't mean you're part of the picture. Word count, 500. It wasn't until her cousin posted a story that I realized how big the event actually was. I was mindlessly scrolling when I saw the venue. One of those garden terrace places with hanging lights and rented linens. Classy, expensive, carefully curated. Then came the tags. Her mom, her sister, her uncle, her new coworker, and the caption, "Birthday Queen deserves the best." I kept watching. Another video, her niece running around with balloons, her aunt giving a toast, people laughing in slow motion. And suddenly, it clicked. This wasn't just a casual dinner. This wasn't low-key. It was a full production. The kind of night where everyone shows up with an outfit and a speech. Everyone but me. And I realized something ugly. She hadn't just left me out. She'd rebranded herself, and I didn't fit the new aesthetic. This was her mature era, her clean slate version, the one where she was effortlessly composed, perfectly independent, selectively curated. She wasn't bringing the guy who knew her sleep patterns and her bad childhood stories. She was bringing no one, because that told a cleaner story, a story where she wasn't dependent, where she had grown, where the boyfriend who used to drive her to family dinners and stand quietly by her side just faded into a different chapter, and no one was supposed to notice. Except I did, because I remembered all the things she used to hate: crowded events, planning stress, social pressure. I remembered the version of her who once cried in my car after her mom made a snide comment about her weight. The version of her who wanted me there as a buffer. Now she was throwing centerpieces and table arrangements like it was second nature. Like I'd never been part of the mess that came before the presentation. I wasn't just excluded. I was scrubbed out. And this event, this birthday celebration, wasn't for her mom at all. It was for her. A proof of concept. A public pivot. An evening-length performance of her new narrative. Look who I've become. Look who's not standing beside me. And that's when I stopped asking why she didn't invite me. Because the answer was simple. You don't bring artifacts to a rebrand. The night of the party, I didn't text her. Didn't ask how it was going. Didn't watch from the sidelines. But I didn't have to. Because Instagram told me everything. Her cousin posted a reel. A pan of the terrace lit with fairy lights. People clinking glasses. Someone was giving a toast. The crowd laughing. And there she was, standing tall, radiant, in a dress I'd never seen. The kind of dress she used to say was too much. I watched it once. Then again. Then the photos started coming. Her with her mom. Her with her sister. Her with her aunt's dog, for some reason. And in every caption, family first. So proud of you. You've grown so much. Independent queen. That one hit a little different. Because that was the narrative. Right there, in front of everyone. She wasn't just celebrating her mom's birthday. She was auditioning for a new role. The girl who grew up, got stable, stood alone. And I wasn't part of that script. Worse, my absence had become part of the story. There was one photo that sealed it. Her holding her niece, in the same exact pose I'd held her in 2 birthdays ago. Same patio, same kid, same forced smile. Except now, it was look how far she's come. I wasn't the boyfriend who stayed home. I was the symbol of what she had outgrown. There's a kind of humiliation that doesn't require confrontation. It's not a slap. It's not a scream. It's watching someone else reshape the past in real time. And knowing your place in it was always more temporary than you realized. She didn't exclude me because she forgot. She excluded me because I didn't match anymore. And now, every post, every comment, every compliment was a brick in the wall she was building between the life she used to have and the version she wanted to sell. I didn't reach out. I didn't text, hope it went well. I didn't like the photos. Because the one thing worse than being erased is being the only one still pretending you weren't. I don't remember deciding. It just happened. The next morning, I woke up, stared at the ceiling for a long time, and then messaged her dad. Nothing deep. Just, you still go to that bar near your office? A few minutes later, he replied, every Friday. Then, you free tonight? I was. By 7:30, I was sitting across from him and her little brother in a booth that smelled like stale beer and chicken wings. The bar she always hated. The one she said was too loud, too basic. And yet, it felt good to be there. No one brought up the party. No one asked why I wasn't there. It wasn't avoidance, it was respect. Or maybe just recognition. Her dad talked about work. Her brother told me about a girl at school he liked. I nodded, laughed, ordered another round. It was the first time in weeks I hadn't felt like I was being edited in real time. Around the third round, her dad pulled out his phone and took a photo of the three of us. We didn't pose. Just a blurry, warm image, the kind you send to no one and everyone. 10 minutes later, I saw it on his Instagram. No caption, no explanation, just there. And I realized something simple, almost dumb. I didn't need an invitation to show up. I didn't need her permission to still exist in the orbit of people I once called family. Because I had shown up. For years. And if she wanted to whitewash the story, fine. But some people didn't need a script to remember who had been there when it mattered. I didn't post the photo. Didn't tag anyone. Didn't make a point of anything. Because clarity doesn't need a mic. And in that moment, I wasn't hurt. I wasn't vengeful. I was just done performing for a seat at her table. Let her keep it curated. Let her keep it polished. I was done being the quiet prop in her rise and shine narrative. She said I wasn't family. I just spent the evening with the two people who never needed a label to treat me like I was. I didn't expect her to react. I didn't even know if she followed her dad's account. But about an hour after the photo went up, I got a text. One word. Really. No punctuation. No context. Just that word, sitting in its own little bubble. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't curiosity. It was control. A last-ditch reach to pull the narrative back in her hands. I stared at it for a minute. Then I typed. Wasn't invited, remember? And I left it at that. No sarcasm. No heat. Just facts. Just the version of events she couldn't twist. She didn't reply. No dots dancing at the bottom of the screen. No half-written messages she backed out of. Just silence. And that silence? It was everything I needed. Because it meant she'd lost the plot. Not because I posted something vengeful. I hadn't. Not because I made a scene. I didn't. But because the people she wanted to quietly shift away from me now saw me, smiling, laughing, belonging, with her blood relatives. She had erased me from the official narrative. I had shown up in the footnotes anyway. And there was no counter for that. No quote to spin. Just a timestamp and a photo she didn't control. I think she wanted me to fight. To send paragraphs. To ask how she could do this. But I didn't. Because I finally understood something. She didn't remove me. She freed me. From pretending to be okay with the little digs. From shrinking myself to fit her aesthetic. From the illusion that showing up was the same as being valued. She called it growth. Independence. Maturity. But she just didn't want to carry the parts of her life that weren't photogenic. And I had stopped auditioning for a role she'd already cast someone else in. Or worse, a role she decided didn't need to exist. A week passed before I heard from her again. She called. I let it ring. Then she texted. I didn't mean it that way. And for a second, I felt that old instinct bubble up. The one that always made me want to explain, smooth things over, be the understanding one. But it passed. Because I remembered exactly how she'd meant it. I remembered how easily she dismissed me. How naturally she rewrote my history beside her. How she smiled as she deleted me. Slowly, politely, publicly. A second text followed. My mom was stressed. I didn't want any drama. Of course. Because my presence was the potential disruption, not the erasure itself. Then came the final one. You could have just come anyway. And that's when it became laughable. Because I could have, sure. I could have shown up, uninvited, unacknowledged, and out of place. I could have stood at the edge of a family I used to think I belonged to, waiting for someone to notice. But I didn't. Instead, I went where I was noticed. Where I didn't need to perform or ask or beg. She said it herself. It's not your family. And for once, I agreed. Not mine. Not the people who smiled through lies. Not the ones who watched her pull away and said nothing. Not the version of her who used distance as proof of personal growth. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to earn something that should have been given freely. She built a new version of herself, sleeker, filtered, curated. And I didn't match. So she cropped me out. But the thing about cropping? It only works when the original image isn't still floating out there, shared, remembered, reposted. And that photo her dad took? It still lives on his profile. No caption. No edits. Just a quiet record of who showed up, even when they weren't supposed to matter. I never responded to her last message. Not because I didn't have words, but because silence, in the right context, is a boundary. And this time, I wasn't the one on the outside of it. If they only invite you into their life when it flatters the version of themselves they want to present, did they ever actually see you at all?